So I'm just standing here in Quarteira, and it's actually got a lot of history for me. I mean, it's like way back in 1991 I came and spent a week here, the first time I'd ever been to Portugal, and I'd taken the train all the way down, actually the bus, all the way down from Lisbon, and ended up in Quarteira for a week with 5 nurses and a buddy from South Africa. So it was a good time, way before I was married, of course. In 2010 we spent a whole year down here while our house was being renovated, and it was an interesting time because during the winter our house, which was on the 4th story, an apartment actually, and we were borrowing it from a friend, which was really kind of him, but all the walls actually filled up with water, and water came out of the electric sockets, and there was like about a millimeter or two of water on the floor with electricity on, and my daughter was crawling around like a little baby, and because she was a little baby, and it was like so dangerous, so we had to move out of there as soon as possible. To be a bit of a sketchy area. Now it's up and coming, and some of these apartments right on the beach are fetching a serious price. These things behind me actually just going up. I looked at some of the prices the other day. I'll confirm them, but I know we're pretty expensive. I mean, this ocean is absolutely spectacular, and I've often come along here and done early morning paddles. But it's quite interesting because I saw a comment in my videos the other day, and one guy, and I was talking about ugly cities in the Algarve, which I did a video about ugly cities, and a guy commented saying, "Oh, Quarteira is just a bunch of horrible apartments right on the, horrible buildings right on the ocean with no specialty coffee and super windy and just terrible beach. Can't go down there." And yeah, sometimes it's like that. Other times it's like this. So Quarteira is actually in the Concelho of Lolé. Now you can see Lolé is one of the biggest concelhos in the Algarve. It goes from Ameixia, Alt Salir, all the way down with the actual city of Lolé up in São Sebastião and São Clemente. But we're talking about Quarteira, which is this area around here. Now originally Quarteira was an old fishing village, and just to the west of it Vila Moura was built up and became a big resort and actually overshadowed the whole of Quarteira. So this area right here is actually Quarteira itself, which I would consider the sort of city of Quarteira. All the rest I'd consider Vila Moura to the north and to the west. So Quarteira isn't that far from the airport. It's only about 25 minutes drive along the 125, and it doesn't make much sense taking the A22 highway. But it's well connected to the A22 highway with great on-ramps and everything. As you can see, the A22 in yellow there, and then in red is the train line that goes all the way across. So there's a train station not too far away from Quarteira. It's Lolé train station, and it'll get you all the way to the west, all the way to the east, and also up to Lisbon. Apparently it all started with the Romans when they founded a small fishing village here called Quarteira. It existed peacefully amongst the stone pine forest which surrounded the area. For centuries, Quarteira was a modest fishing village located on the edge of a 3-kilometer long beach, but in 1297, on the 15th of November, King Dom Dinis granted it a charter, incorporating the village officially. In the 15th century, King Dom João I ordered the first experiments in sugarcane cultivation, which is a bit bizarre. I wonder where he got that idea from. Maybe it was from Madeira, where they just discovered in the early 1400s. But now the parish of Quarteira, it was created in 1916, and today it's well known to the Portuguese for its magnificent beach, the best quality fish, and its stone pine forests, and also, obviously, hotel and apartment blocks. Tourism got its start here with the origins of the Dom José Beach Hotel. Originally, it was actually a restaurant called Toca de Coelho, opened by local entrepreneur José Coelho Jr. In the summer of 1965, he expanded the restaurant into a 32-bed hotel, and it's now grown into an 154-bed hotel. On the 13th of May 1999, Quarteira was elevated to the status of city, and now this parish is home to the largest private resort in Europe, Vila Moura, and that actually totally overshadows Quarteira, even though it's a part of the Quarteira freguesia. before we carry on this drive, let's have a look at some of the useful locations around. So if you look at groceries, so for example, there's the fish market in the bottom left there. Intermarché is quite a big grocery store, and Continent, Pingados and Lidl up to the top right. And there's a gypsy market out just on the other side of Lidl. So there's lots of other little supermarkets, Jaffas and Spar all around, and obviously butchers and things like that. But that's the gist of the grocery stores around Quarteira. Schools in the area, there are no private international schools in the area of Quarteira itself. They are close by. However, it's well serviced by government schools. So we're looking at High School Loura Aires here, and EB1, which is a primary school, Escola Básica 1, and Escola Básica 2 and 3, which are high schools, secondary and tertiary schools. Now, if we're heading over to the northwest of Quarteira, there's a couple of other schools there. There's also a primary school, EB1, and there's a high school, Dom Dinige. Okay, so that's it for schooling in Quarteira. Actually, there is another school just out to the northeast of Quarteira called EB1 Fonte Santa, and I headed out there, but actually just past Lidl and EB1 Fonte Santa, I went into this place called Tiramisu, which is a restaurant in a development called Alsacia, and a lot of actually younger couples are moving over here, and it's quite interesting because the general majority of people who are relocating are retired. But I was chatting to Verity, who's actually a young couple. Her and her husband have brought their 2 kids over, and she's really happy in Quarteira. So let's have a chat to Verity quickly. So Verity, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming. Like random message on Instagram.
That's how you have to do it.
Exactly, yeah. So I just wanted to chat to Verity a little bit about, because she's got 2 kids, moved over to Portugal, how long ago about?
September last year, so 9 months now.
9 months, okay. So how have you found Quarteira? You're hanging around Quarteira quite a lot?
So I would say we move around a lot.
Yeah.
And that's what I was saying before, like everything kind of, it's a very short drive to get anywhere, maybe 5, maybe 10, maybe 15, or 20 you're kind of capped of things. Like even Faro from here is 25 minutes, and they've got some great stuff as well. I need to explore more. All the supermarkets, or not supermarkets, shopping centres, traditional shopping centres, they all have little parks for the kids.
Yeah.
So it's great. If you have to go, grab some Nespresso in Faro, bring the kids, they play. They have no idea where you are. This is like an event for them. So it's
you've obviously discovered Ma shopping as well, right?
Yes, Ma. Yeah. They have the free Lego for over 3s, and they have that tiny little play area as well for children.
The thing always looks weird because all the parents are not allowed in. All have to sit there watching their kids.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I haven't been there yet because my son's too young. But
okay.
The moment he turns 3, ding. And IKEA have a little play screen as well for kids.
True,
so
yeah.
On a rainy day, that's like the vibe.
And I think what you mentioned as well, instead of having these sort of pre-built, organized things for kids, generally children here just go out and play, and and wherever you are, right, on the beach.
Yeah, I mean, I have had to hunt for some kids' play activities, so like parks and things like that. It's not as, the infrastructure isn't there like it is in London from what I'm used to. However, they still have them. They might just be a little bit older, might need a bit of maintenance, but you don't need them. You go to the beach, or you go to a restaurant that has a park, because so many of them do, because the spaces are big here, so they can have a restaurant and have a park.
That was great to chat to Verity, but we talked a little bit about activities for children and stuff, which is more suited for an upcoming video. So let's get back to Quarteira, because it's about lunchtime, and I got to meet my buddy Nick to talk about real estate. Finally, I found a lovely little restaurant called Cale, which is fantastic, just at the top of the street that I was walking up, and I awaited my buddy Nick. So we're at this really nice little restaurant called Cale, which I just found on the off chance, and it looks great, and hopefully it's going to be good. And I've been joined by my buddy Nick, and he's going to tell us a little bit about, because I'm Nick and he's Nick, he's going to tell me a little bit about what he loves, what he hates about Quarteira. Take a drink.
Thanks, yeah, just lubricate the voice box. What do I love and hate about Quarteira? Well, look, it's one of these places that, and I say this about Portugal in general when I first came here, was that I judged the book by its cover. I do it with restaurants, or did it with restaurants, and I did it with Quarteira. It was a place visually that whenever I drove past, I was like, wow, what is this place? It's like a 1980s, 1970s, tower blocks, and didn't really look at any of the majesty underneath the cover. Now, 11 years on, or whatever it is now for me, it's one of my favourite places. The beach here is phenomenal because it's right in the heart of the town. So like you literally have a beautiful new boardwalk, like an American style, massively wide, probably talking 30, 40 meters wide, and you're literally, up and down it. I take my kids, we scoot, there's parks hanging off it, and if you want to go to the beach, it's just there. So my motive was that strong that I actually invested in a property myself here, and have also helped clients do the same thing over the years. So it's really a place that if you can get past the aesthetic, everything is on your doorstep. I mean, there are hundreds of restaurants, little ones, where you can get your typical fish and potatoes for $10. It's fabulous, and not quite as touristy as the Albufeiras of this world.
Thanks, Nick. It's really cool. Let's see how much this place costs. I took time out the next morning to go and paddleboard with Cale and Chloe, who had moved over from London, originally from South Africa. We want to find out what their experience has been like moving to Quarteira, because they live right in the center. How's it, guys? I just want to introduce you to Cale and Chloe, and they've just moved to, how long have you been here? About 6 months, huh?
Yeah.
They've been in Quarteira about 6 months, so we're going to just ask them a little bit about what life is like in Quarteira.
Yeah, I mean, look, I would say overall amazing. I mean, we came from the UK, small little town called Market Harbour in Leicestershire. Reasons for moving mainly were weather. I have family here, so to be with family. And just a general quality of life. And I'd say in this past 6 months, I'd say our quality of life has improved quite substantially.
Yeah.
Obviously, friends is different. We've had to try and make friends, and we're still trying to find our feet in that area, the social circle area. But in terms of quality of life, I mean, I can't complain.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think for me it was initially very challenging because obviously for the first few months, without working and trying to find your feet and, get used to driving on the wrong side of the road and the other side of the car, you sort of, there's a lot of adjustments that you have to just get on with and make do it. So for me, that's added to, I would say, my personal stresses, which I think sometimes I would take out on Cale. But then as things slowly started warming up and the sun started shining, you start forgetting about the dramas, and it's definitely improved for me.
So as far as Quarteira goes itself, do you guys ever get into the Quarteira, the town, and cruise around, eat here, walk along the marginal? Yeah?
All the time. I think we're getting to the point now where we probably need to venture out of Quarteira. And it's funny because we were with Cale's family yesterday and they asked, what do you think of this area and that area? And we were like, do you know what? We actually just genuinely love Quarteira because there's so much on your doorstep. So, yeah.
For example, what stuff would you go? In restaurants, or would you walk on the beach?
So, look, every morning I tend to wake up at 6 and I'll just go for a walk on this beachfront.
Just to give you a quick break from the ocean noise, badly chosen location for an interview. So I need to mention that there's an amazing sports centre just to the northwest of Quarteira town itself, and includes paddle tennis and all kinds of extra special stuff. Now, Social Restaurant, which is a fantastic little tapas place just down there. Kai's Restaurant, where I had lunch with Nick. Warco is just behind it, apparently comes highly recommended. Jungle Juice is a great place for grabbing amazingly fresh juices. And Beirama Bakery is Cale's one of his absolute favourite spots to go down and get some early morning pastel de nata along the boardwalk. And Pizzeria Mamma Mia, he was talking about carbonara as his favourite dish ever, and he just loves it. He says he can't get away from that restaurant. And Tiku Tiku is a much more upmarket restaurant, which has just recently been introduced to Quarteira. And Agaivota means seagull, and that's a beautiful spot to go and sit right next to the ocean and get some fairly expensive fish, but it's got a stunning view of the ocean and all around it. So there's tons of other places in Quarteira to go and visit, but those are some of the best that Cale and Chloe mentioned. Now, back to the beach.
Stays
But
in
so,
that
like,
van.
if you look at Quarteira, you reckon it's a much quieter version of Villamora? Because obviously the clubs and the bars and the restaurants
Yeah.
are mostly in Villamora, and Quarteira is more like a residential area, right?
Yeah,
I would say so.
yeah, and you can tell by the people walking around as well. The people tend to be, I would say, in the demographic of like between 40 to 60. You've got quite some popular hotels. The Dom Jose Hotel is quite popular, and you can just see the people on the boardwalk. Now you get a good idea of the demographic, and it is slightly different to Villamora. I mean, we were there last night on the marina last night, Saturday night. You can imagine. I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can see it's obviously beginning of June, it's starting to get busy now. The Brits are out in full force, the Irish are out in full force, and it's it's good. It's a nice vibe. They do bring a nice vibe.
So what's the worst thing that you hate about Quarteira?
Do you know what? I think once the summer hits, I think the worst thing is going to be parking. Because for so long we were tourists taking up space and coming here, and now you see it as a local, and you don't get aggravated as much, but you do think, man, just last week I was able to park here, and now I've got to walk further. So, it's really, we're quite spoiled actually.
Yeah, I think that's a more sort of poignant one as well, because if you were considering living in Quarteira, then you are fighting for parking, especially unless you've got a designated spot, obviously.
Yeah.
But you are fighting for parking, and it's going to be in the summer. It's going to be I can imagine it'll be really, really frustrating.
Well, thank you so much to those people, Chloe, Cale, to Nick Smith, and to Verity for coming on and chatting about Quarteira. Really appreciate it. It's been a fantastic time actually exploring more of Quarteira, even though I know it fairly well myself. So if you enjoy Quarteira or don't, just drop a comment and let's have a feisty conversation down below. Not too feisty though. All right. Anyway, listen, it's a beautiful Sunday. I'm just going to upload this video and head on for the next video. So thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. AlgarveAddicts.com